In the year of 1981, 17-year-old Jane found herself embroiled in a murder that would take decades for the killer to be brought to justice. And I just want you to imagine for a second keeping a deadly secret for 40 years, thinking that you got away with murder, okay? But then out of nowhere, just randomly, the past comes knocking. This is the story of a husband, a brutal crime, and a hitman who, to this day, we can't find. He just vanished without a trace. And after decades of silence, justice finally caught up to them. Hello, Digestives. Welcome to Crimes Digested. This is a place where we try to digest senseless crimes and violence, and they will probably make our stomachs hurt. Yeah, but here we are. I may be a masochist, or am I? We'll never know now, will we? If you're new here, welcome, and if you are returning, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me once again. We're just gonna jump right in, okay? Today, we're gonna be diving into one of, in my opinion, the most twisted, cold case from Bedfordshire. I am 1000% sure I'm not saying that right. So I will apologize in advance. This is a story of betrayal, dark secrets, and a murder that finally caught up with a man after 40 years. 40 years of silence. This is the case of Alan Morgan, a husband who allegedly hired a hitman to murder his former wife, Carol Morgan. We're gonna break this case down really quickly. I'm gonna include some of the most shocking moments in the courtroom, and then we're gonna talk about some statements made. We're gonna even share some tips on what we can learn from this case, okay? So before we continue, I just want to really quickly tell you a little bit about Carol, the victim. As the victim, she should be at the forefront of this story, this case, and I feel like sometimes not enough is said about the actual victims because the attention and just everybody's focused on the criminal, and they talk about the criminal. But yeah, so with that, let's jump in. 36-year-old Carol Morgan was previously married, and before she met Alan, she had 2 kids, a boy and a girl, beautiful kids. But like most unfortunate things in life, the relationship didn't work out. Her marriage ended, she got a divorce. She ended up getting the house that she shared with her husband in that divorce, and she decides to give love another chance. She wanted to meet someone, make a connection, and have something meaningful, you know? So she joins this organization, a singles club, you might call it, where people meet and if they want to, mingle. I mean, she was ready to get back on that horse, okay? That's what I need. Yeah, I need to join a singles club. If y'all know one, let me know. Because your girl is single, ready to mingle. Anyways, in comes Alan Morgan. Her relationship with Alan moved relatively fast. They got married in 1977, and he moved in with her and her children in the house that she used to live with her ex-husband. Now, there's this old saying, no one falls in love faster than a man who needs a place to stay, okay? A man who needs a warm place to stay. And I'm not saying he didn't love her, but I'm also not saying that he didn't love her, okay? Because come on. Anyways, Carol was known by all around her to be this very loving being, just a very loving mother to her 2 kids, and she was extremely hardworking, okay? Very hardworking. Her hardworking trickled into her personal relationships as well, because she soon found out that the man that she has promised to be with, the man she promised to devote herself to, was having extramarital affairs. And not only did she decide to stay with him, she made her best effort. She was asking counselors and people like that to help her relationship. Now, I want to make one thing very, very clear, okay? It is the person involved in a relationship decision whether or not they want to leave, whether it's abuse or whatever. It's their choice. So I'm not in any way judging her decision to stay with this man. I say this to emphasize the fact of her not giving up on her marriage. Okay? And it seems like it was working, at least to her. She welcomes her husband back into their marital bed in August of 81, the very same month that she would meet her very tragic end. The Morgan couple, Alan Morgan, 31 years old, and Carol Morgan, 36 years old at the time of this crime anyways, they opened a convenience store in 1979. The store was, it was a share investment, but Carol contributed the most. She poured her everything into that store, okay? But who's keeping tab? Okay, I am, but Carol wasn't. She saw the store as a joint venture between herself and her husband. Like, this was their family's work. Even though she was getting stressed out by the accumulating amount of debt that was just weighing her down, just pushing down on her, she was working hard to catch up, you know? So now that we have brought that up, let's talk about Alan, shall we? Boy, oh boy. That man is a giant bag of manure, allegedly, of course. Because instead of sitting down with his wife and talking about what to do with their relationship, about the debt that they're going into, instead of being the head of the family, leading his wife and taking care of providing, this man was too busy with his affair. The very same one that his wife forgave him of. Remember that affair? Yeah, that very same one. It got so blatant, that even the woman's husband, Margaret's husband, ends up confronting him and telling him, like, you gotta stop this. You gotta stop this illicit relationship that you have with my wife. But this did absolutely zero. Okay? And I'm sure I've said this before in another video, but if I have not, this is me officially saying it. If your partner is cheating on you, confront them. Don't go out looking for the person that they're cheating with or whoever, okay? Because although they are wrong morally, maybe even ethically wrong, they don't owe you anything. Your partner is the one who owes you their loyalty, their commitment, okay? Their honesty. I hope I'm making sense. Okay, now that we got that little out of the way, let's get back to Alan, okay? Alan was nearing the end of the road. By the time middle of August rolls around, his relationship with his wife was strained. His finances were strained, okay? Not even his finance, the finance that his wife was making and he was just leeching off of. Anyways, just under 2 years of opening their store on August 13 of 1981, the police received an interestingly odd phone call. In this phone call, Alan, sounding both distraught and confused, is just stumbling over his words. And he's going on and he's describing this terrifying scene in front of him that fortunately the kids didn't see. He explains that he was out with his stepkids and they went to watch this movie earlier in the day. They went to, he was very detailed. They went to Odeon Cinema in Luton. And when he returned, his wife was bludgeoned in the store. There was a cigarette and some money missing. This was odd to most people who knew the couple, mostly because Alan was never close to his stepkids like that. He never voluntarily takes them out, especially if she's not going with them. So people found it odd that he just took the kids out and then this happened. So now, most people will argue that maybe in trying to fix his marriage, he's also trying to get close to his wife's children because those are his stepkids. But they were still eyeing him and people were side eyeing him. The rumor mills was hot, okay? I don't even know if that's how the saying goes, but just know people were talking. There was a lot of buzz going around, and the authorities were listening. So officers decided to question both him and his partner in crime, Margaret Spooner. But Alan had a tight alibi. His alibi was tighter than the waistline of my jean right now. And then witness also ended up describing this guy that had like a pig like nose. So investigators decide that since the lead on Alan isn't getting anywhere, it's that lead is as dry as the Sahara Desert. They decide to focus their attention and investigation on that man. It's not like they were gonna find any other lead, okay? But just because the police stopped looking into him, it doesn't mean the people stopped. People were still talking. They were still whispering, okay? And the rumors were getting widely spread. So he decided he was gonna do some PR. He was gonna give the people what they want. He was gonna stop the gossiping and tell them like the real truth. And the truth is, I didn't do it. And I quote, "How can I clear my name until the real murderer is caught?" That was terrible. But that's the interview. And he seemed very disingenuous. Even the journalist, one of the journalists that interviewed him, his name was John Kitty. He explained that he couldn't forget the interaction with Alan. John says that his whole demeanor was weird. He didn't act as you would expect a man to act, especially a man who just found out that his wife had just been like, you wouldn't expect them to react like that. And yes, you could say people grieve differently, but this is just very disturbing to him, you know? It seemed to John that Alan enjoyed the attention he was getting through interviews. He was enjoying the publicity, you know, the infamy of this whole thing more than finding his wife's killer. And as the leads start to kind of fizzle out, the case starts getting cold, and the investigators were starting to grasp at straws. They even hired a forensic hypnotist in a desperate attempt to get more information out of witnesses. Yeah, that's how desperate they were, okay? They were very desperate. Everybody did everything they can. Even a local businessman put out a reward for like 5,000 euros for anyone that has any information on the mysterious man with the ugly pig nose. They didn't say ugly, but I'm putting that there. Everyone did everything for Carol. They wanted to get justice for her, as even if it's just the most minuscule amount of justice, they wanted to get that for her. But there was no answer. The case got cold and people started moving on. Everyone went about their lives, and detectives will once in a while, every couple of years, open the case back up, try to see if they can get new perspectives on it, but there was no success. But that is until 2018 rolls around, and a detective superintendent by the name of Foster took over the cold case review team, and he decided he was gonna take another look at Carol's case. He cracks Carol's case open, or her file open, and immediately started questioning the witnesses all over again. Remember the 17-year-old girl from the beginning of this video? Her name is Jane Button, and she has been waiting like decades for the police to come knocking on her door. For over 40 years, she has been waiting to tell her story, and her story would open a Pandora box that Alan Morgan assumed has been tightly sealed, at least until now. Jane explained how she came to know Margaret, and Margaret was like a mentor to her. You know, she really respected and, like, I would go as far as to say revered her. Through Margaret, she gets introduced to Alan, who one day very casually asks her whether her boyfriend knows anyone that can do a hit for hire. Yeah, you heard that right. The 17-year-old kids are supposed to be running in the same circle as hitmen. Like, 17-year-old. What 17-year-old would know a hitman? Sir, are you well? Are you sure? But she didn't report this to the officers during the initial investigation. Uh, If you want to know why? Margaret apparently asked her not to tell anybody. Now, I'm going to give her some grace because she was 17 at the time. She was very young. But are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So 40 years later, Alan has moved on with his life, remarried, is living life large, and you've guessed it, he remarried Margaret. So police officers decide to arrest her. They wanted to kind of shake them a little bit. In 2019, during one of those arrests, they actually arrested them multiple times. And in one of those arrests, during the time that they were in the room alone, she was heard shushing her husband because she felt like they might be like recording. And then the following year, he wrote a letter to her saying something like, "Trust work on both sides. If I didn't trust you, you wouldn't be here." Detectives found this very odd because if they're claiming to be innocent, as this has been their song, right? What's the secrecies for? Why are they being so secretive? I mean, most innocent people would speak with their whole chest, but they're not. So they get charged in 2023, and over a span of 2 months, trial prosecutors present the evidence, and it is their belief that he hired a hitman to end his wife's life and then stage it to look like a burglary gone wrong. That's probably why the killer ended up taking 435 euros in cash. This was more than likely his payment for the hijab. Honestly, this reminds me of another case that I did about a husband that ended his wife's life and left their kid to like see his wife, and then years like decades later he finally gets arrested. I think that one was like 40 years or something, but decades later he gets arrested. And it's honestly, it's very sad because if you don't love the person anymore, why not just break up? Why not go your separate ways? Why take their life and just end them like that? It's very sad to me. Fortunately, in this case, the kids didn't see their mother, but that place was just bloody. By the time the police get there, it was bloody, okay? So Alan Morgan ends up receiving a life sentence with a minimum time of 21 years and 325 days to be served for conspiracy to murder. He was 74 years at the time of this, and Margaret found not guilty. Detectives are saying that they will continue their efforts to locate the actual like killer because he's still at large, you know. So they're still working hard to bring him to justice. And the judge's scathing remark at the end of the trial, it captures the public's attention and honestly has been quoted in every single headline you probably found out there since then. But the courtroom drama wasn't just about numbers and sentences, okay? It was a reckoning with decades of hidden truths, and Judge Spence's remark served as a kind of like a public condemnation of Alan's action. it makes it very clear that the law had finally caught up with him, and Margaret Morgan's acquittal further complicated the narrative, and it highlights the murky lines between like complicity and victimization in cases of a domestic betrayer, you know. I do see a lot of people who are like, Margaret is also innocent. I don't know in which universe, but anyways, that's my little 2 cents, okay? Some people are still focused on the unsolved mystery of the hitman's identity, if he's still alive. Most social medias are discussing whether justice was fully served, when a very big key piece of the puzzle remains unsolved. But this case isn't just about one man's treachery, okay? This case serves as a very grim reminder of how cold case investigations can finally bring long held secrets to light. It also underscores the importance of re examining unsolved cases, no matter how many years have passed. And as for us, there are a couple takeaways. The power of just persistence, okay? The cold case investigation in 2018 showed that justice can be delayed, but it's not forgotten, okay? Even after 40 years, the truth has a way of just emerging, like just popping out of nowhere. So I want to know what you think about the Morgan case. Did justice truly catch up with him after all these years, or do you think the unsolved hitman mystery leaves this too open, like ended? Drop your thoughts in the comments, any theories or questions in the comments, and I wanna know what you guys think below. I'd love to hear your opinions. And if you found this deep dive, is it even a deep dive? No, quick recap, both chilling and intriguing, please give this video a big like and subscribe for more true crimes stories, and share it with anyone who loves a good mystery. Thanks for watching, and remember, every secret comes to light at the end of the day, okay? Don't keep no secrets. Don't be doing nothing. Don't be hiding nothing from nobody, okay? But I hope you have a good day. As always, stay safe, stay curious, and I'll see you next time. Bye.